The views and opinions expressed by the following program are those of the host, guests, and callers and are not necessarily those of this station or Webster Rock Hill Ministries, its management, or other hosts or underwriting sponsors. Programs presented on KWRH-LP are for educational and entertainment purposes only. Views which are presented are for educational purposes only and are not intended to treat, diagnose, or claim any cure of disease or condition.
Hello, family. This is Robin and Greg Ingram with Families United. We are brought to you by 92.9 FM, and it's all about family matters. Today, we're going to talk about healthy relationship and what it means to the family as well as the community, as well as families and marriages and those who are dating. It's all about healthy relationship because we do believe family matters. Today we have a special guest with us. We have Pastor Douglas Petty from Fresh Start Bible Church. And we also have my handsome husband next to me. And we're just talking about family, what family means to you, and how to have a healthy relationship. We know today it's so busy with, work, school, homework, but we still have to keep that family together. And that's what it's all about. The first institution that God ordained is families. And so we're here, Families United, to bring some information to you and enlighten you about what families is all about. So as we continue on with healthy relationship, I know one of the biggest things that family have sometimes is hidden issues. They have various problems, but there is a benefit of having a healthy relationship. The benefit for adults, you live longer, you build your asset and wealth. You become more educated because you have two incomes together. You also, with your children, they are emotional healthier, as well as able to attend a college or a university, and also the community. When you have a healthy family and healthy relationship, there's low in crime rates. Most likely, children go to school and attend school and graduate from high school and go to higher education or another career path. These are the benefits of having a healthy family and healthy marriage and community. Don't you think so, Greg?
Absolutely. We've actually been testifying all of the benefits of not only what a healthy family does. Robin gave some of the some insight in regards to, from a health standpoint, what it does. But also, I would just like to add, even from a community standpoint, what it does to our communities. And our communities can actually thrive and become metropolitans. So there's an awesome display in regards to, what we need to do as far as educating and taking the young people as young as we can to get them to understand. Because if they see a healthy family thrive in the household, most likely that's going to help consider and have them grow up to want a healthy family as well. Well, Robin had mentioned that our guest that we have is Pastor Petty today. And let me tell you, folks, I'm just delighted to have him in the studio because he is a plethora of knowledge in regards to talking about the family structure. He's a family therapist and a licensed counselor. And I tell you, we have done work with him in the past in retreats, and he does a tremendous job. I can go on and on and on, but without further ado, Dr. Petty, I'd like to hand it over to you. And is there anything that you primarily would like to say before we start and before we begin? Because I have a bunch of questions, but I'd like to hand it over to you and let you talk to our listening audience.
Well, good evening, and we're ready for the questions.
All right, here we go. The questions is there were 7 questions that I think I sent, and these questions are randomly. I try to do research in regards to the subject matter would be, and also kind of what is hindering our relationships and hindering our families today. So, without further ado, one of the questions is, Pastor, how would you define a healthy relationship?
Well, Robin really spoke to it in that regard with the information that she put out. But if I summarize it down, then it would be a healthy relationship is one in which dignity is given to all individuals that are involved. That dignity, that they have a voice in the process, and when you see that each individual has a voice and they're treated with dignity, then that's an indication of a healthy relationship.
Okay. And what are some of the benefits of a healthy marriage, healthy relationship?
Well, if you start off right away, the individuals will want to be around each other a lot more. They would create more opportunities to be able to spend time together, and just by virtue of doing that, then that increases communication. And then once you increase communication, then transparency is a part of that process, and a level of intimacy grows because you're getting to know each other. I mean, there's a level of knowing just when you enter into the relationship, but the more time you spend, the more time you talk, then a number of other things come out of that. And then the more sensitive you are to where the other person is, the more supportive you are, and the list of things just continue to go. And there's just no substitute for spending time together.
Okay. How do you define healthy relationships, and how do they impact our physical, emotional, and spiritual wellness?
Well, health in and of itself, when you start looking at the hierarchy of needs, is that there's some validation for being in a safe environment. Safe environment meaning that you don't have to try to pretend, that you can just be yourself and that you embrace for actually being there. And so if you take the word disease, mm-hmm. and you could say disease means not at ease. Mm-hmm. All right. So then therefore something that makes you uncomfortable will probably facilitate an unhealthy relationship, but at ease would probably do just the opposite. So that means then you work toward optimum health without there being some outside influences that begin to impact that, such as use of substance abuse or other things along those lines. But when you're not at ease in a relationship, then it will ultimately facilitate a lack of health emotionally. Physically, your vital organs are under attack because we're made of chemicals, and then these chemicals start to impact your vital organs. That's where you can start looking at some things such as in the areas of the kidneys, the liver, and medically they're able to show that actually is the case. And so they look at healthy couples, or they really are healthier. If they have a healthy interaction, then it facilitates health in and of itself as well. And so that means then medical challenges are not at the highest level that they would be in situations where it's an unhealthy relationship.
Wow. So see, that defines in previous broadcasts, me and Robin have always said, family, that if you hug your wife, that each and every day that you leave your home, that's an additional 5 years that could be added on to your life. So Pastor Petty just gave a wonderful example of the from the spiritual and the medical aspects of what a healthy relationship is. Wow.
And then maybe there's something else. There are studies by some places such as UCLA, which will talk about the importance of hugging and what it does. The hugging is stress reducer. So we're not talking about choking; we're talking about hugging. Okay, and that is a different that just and if you think about it in a Christian setting in particular, where there is a welcoming, there is a hugging, and the impact that it does, and oftentimes you can tell when individuals have been impacted in a negative way, they're reluctant to do that. They back away. They're standoffish because it triggers some other things that are not very good. But it does something for you from a health perspective as well, just hugging someone.
Wow. So that segues into my next question. In the family, how does a healthy, functional relationship impact the husband, the wife, the parents, the children, and siblings' health? So,
If children look and see how parents interact, it gives them a sense of security. I mean, if a man is in that home and the children see this man building up, encouraging, loving this woman, it sends a very strong message to the young men in particular, but it gives a high level of security if there's a young lady in the home, because now this is this model that allows her to be able to use this dad as a template to say, this is who I begin to look for in somebody else that I interact with. And it says to that young man, this is how you give value to a female in order to minimize the potential of abuse, because you've seen affirmation upon affirmation. And it changes how they engage each other and even how they engage their own peers because of some dignity and respect that's been shown and been modeled.
you know, I can definitely relate to that because I can remember when my original parents, of course, my mom and dad, you know, my mom used to say things about my dad in regards to that he was a wonderful provider, but other than that, that was it. And I can remember as a young child, I always used to say, you know, well, Mom, where's Dad? Where's Dad? Now, psychologically, I didn't know what was going on at that time. Only thing that I knew is just as a young man, he wasn't there. So it impacted me in some way that, you know, wow, you know, because for whatever reason, of course, I would see the disagreements. I would see things going on. But I always, as a child, was looking for, where is he? Why isn't he here? And that primarily explains that. So one last question before we go to break. What is the role of forgiveness in a good relationship?
Forgiveness is one of the deadly emotions. Shall we say that when you're dealing with unforgiveness, so really the issue is about unforgiveness, and in that unforgiveness, the impact that it has, because they found, again, medically, even if you just look at it from that end, medically, there are some people who have been in hospital settings by holding things over someone, and they finally forgive them and their health improves.
Wow. Well, we're going to hold it right there. We'll take a break and we'll be right back, family. We have one more question in regards to Ask the Pastor, and we'll be back. Hello, family. We're back. This is Greg and Robin with Families United. And we were just talking about the spirit of what a healthy relationship is. And we had various questions. As we were approaching our first break, we were on the fact that a question that was presented that we had spoken to the Pastor Petty, about. And again, I'd just like to repeat that question. And it is, what is the role of forgiveness in a good relationship?
Well, this thing about forgiveness, actually, some people would like to say, well, I'll never forgive them. I'm just not going to do it. I don't care what happens, I'm not going to do it. But the lack of forgiveness really puts you in prison, because you're the one that, because it allows you to be even more toxic than the act that a person has actually committed, because now your failure to release would say you're internalizing. So when you internalize it, then that means then it's got to go somewhere, so it goes to you. It starts to affect you on the inside. The thought of hearing the person's name, seeing them in some other settings, and you're just harboring. And so it locks you in and restricts you from being able to interact freely. So what forgiveness does, it allows an individual to show grace towards somebody else, because the possibility always exists that the same measure that you show towards somebody else is the same one that you may need, or more yourself. Because what happens when a situation comes up where you desire forgiveness for having done or said something, in some cases you didn't even know that you did, or you didn't know the impact that it had. So it allows you to be free. If not, you're in prison.
Wow, that's interesting that you would think that, and often I know the Bible talks about it in specific texts where it talks about, God loves service, and he loves for you to forgive. That's one of the basic functions that he blesses you on. I mean, if you think about it from a common sense aspect, you cannot get a blessing if your hands are closed. God loves it when you're open, and you open your mind, and you open your heart, and you open your spirit, and that's one of the things tremendously.
And then maybe a little bit more. One of the things that people tend to believe, that to forgive someone you have to forget what they've done, and that's not really true. So I'm like, well, I'll never forget it. I'm never going to forget that. Well, forgiveness doesn't say you forget it. It's to not hold against. For instance, think about it. You could take the term forgiveness and say, I choose, because it's a choice, I choose to release you from the harm or hurt that you caused me, although I would be justified in reacting. Okay. It said, I choose to release you, because you don't have to. Okay. So forgiveness is a choice.
It's a choice. Okay. And the last question is, what are the signs of a healthy dating, friendship, relationship?
Okay. Unless you've been taught, you don't know the first thing about dating, unless you've been taught, because your emotions and your flesh are in the way. And the tendency is to excuse away the behavior of somebody simply because of your desire to be drawn to them. Now, ideally, you would keep your distance. Ideally, you would keep your distance. You would remain in public settings. You would not give anyone access to you. Now, ideally, you would rather not date. You would rather be involved in a courtship. Courtship, which would say that there is some destination in mind. The way that you could save some heartache and a lot of other things is to not really look to date someone. It would be to get into a relationship with some intention of it being permanent. Now, when you start talking about an individual, now if it's groups, if there's some activity you want to be involved in, then it's best to do it with groups. But then if you start talking about this dating, then there are too many entitlements and privileges that a person believes that they has with no destination in mind. Dating is an easy out, but some commitment of courtship says, I will keep boundaries. I will maintain the dignity in the relationship, because if you have a level of value for me, then I will not violate certain things because of that. Because if you're important to me, then I want to treasure every moment that I spend with you. And dating doesn't necessarily have those kind of boundaries. It's an experiment.
Wow. So I'm assuming, to our listening audience, so how long have you been counseling families and just in general as a pastor and all the things that you've done, because you've quite knowledged. So to our listening audience, how long have you been counseling? And the other question on top of that is, in your opinion, what do you think is the reason why people are hesitant to come and talk to a therapist when they're having issues in their relationship?
Right. I have been involved in counseling over 30 years. And in the midst of that, then that has been people in relationship, counseling them, whether they've been together 1 week or whether or not they've been together for 50 years. I've actually counseled some people in their 80s who've been married for 50 years.
Wow.
Because the things that come up are the things that come up. Individuals have remained in relationship with unresolved things and tried to step around them and never really address them. So they learn how to coexist and not necessarily have what you call a healthy relationship. Oftentimes we see, because people have been together for a very long time, the implication is that it's a healthy relationship, but that's not necessarily the case. It's a survived relationship. So those are not necessarily the same thing. Now, people have a tendency to not involve themselves in counseling. Men a lot more than women because of our maleness and our need to be right and not to admit that we have deficits. And so the tendency is that you would rather fix it yourself or say there isn't anything wrong, and what is it that anybody could actually say to me? And it's at the detriment of the relationship and the family by failure to do so. A lot of it could be avoided in relationships if there was premarital counseling. A lot of the things that come up could have been avoided because it's almost like sending out a bomb squad ahead of time, and you know where the landmines are. You begin to identify the areas of potential conflict so that they are resolved ahead of time, and then now you can have a healthy way to engage challenges that come up without them having a devastating impact.
Interesting. So, Robin, do you have anything in regards to, from a lesson standpoint, that we'd like to talk in regards to our listening audience?
Well, Greg, I am so excited to have Pastor Douglas Petty here with us as a special guest. Family, did you listen to what we had to say? This is some great information. If you can, take notes or, contact us. We continue to have workshops and retreats and conferences this year. You can reach us at 314-772-2260. Or you can contact us at info@healthyrelationshipstl.com. That's info@healthyrelationshipstl.com. And this is so true about healthy relationships. There are always an opportunity in how to deal with some of these issues, don't talk about the issue when you're upset about an event or problem. Just set a time to talk about that problem or that issue. You might just need to take a time out, take 5 minutes or maybe walk around the park for 15 minutes until you cool down, and then have that conversation so you can have effective communication with your partner. As well as, if events happen, knowing when to have that time out and when to calm down. We have to manage and deal with certain things together as a team, and just sitting down and talking to each other is always important. Don't allow yourself to be so upset that you cannot reach and talk to that person. But Families United, we're here for you, family, and just want to let you know that you can reach us at 314-772-2260. Also, you can text the studio at 314-736-4510 with a few questions, just to reach out to Greg or Robin with Families United. That studio text is 314-736-4510. Right, Greg?
Absolutely. I was always under the, before I've been married, and I've been married to my beautiful wife for over 20 years now, and I'm just so thankful that God steered me in that direction. But unlike, most men, I think the pastor had mentioned about men would sometimes we're on this pride horse, and we're on this horse, and then in general, as a community standpoint, we think that counseling just can't help. The number one thing that we always mention is, there's nothing wrong with us. Before we go to break, Pastor, can you just elaborate on this, why mentally that we think that counseling is, that we're ashamed to go see a counselor or talk with someone in regards to what's going on with us?
Well, it implies a deficit, that something is wrong and that I'm not handling things very well. And then if I have to admit that I need counseling, then it, in some ways for a person, they begin to believe I've been a failure. And so there's some shame associated with it. Who is going to know? And you just get this long list of things. But that has everything to do with what was I exposed to along the way? And if I'm a person of faith, what have I been exposed to understand? To understand that if we look at from a faith perspective, it shows through Proverbs there is safety in a multitude of counselors. Actually, we are encouraged to do that. We're encouraged to do it. If it's a person of faith and they follow what the Word of God said, then that says that's something that you ought to do, because it talks about wisdom and seeking. And we see these examples throughout the Word. Moses had Jethro, and a list of things just go all through. Paul and Barnabas, and then you can see Nathan and David. So counsel has been a part of the process. Okay. So we see that precedent in place everywhere.
Okay.
And it's just because we lack ourselves too much.
Okay. Family, we will be back shortly. I'd like to elaborate on that, but we'll be back shortly.
Hello, family. This is Robin and Greg with Families United, and we have a special guest here today, Dr. Douglas Petty, known as Pastor Petty at Fresh Start Bible Church, and we're just delighted to have him here to talk about healthy marriage and healthy relationship.
I'm sorry, Robin, but before you go on, Pastor, is there... if one would like to get in contact with you in regards to if they're interested in counseling, if they're interested in issues in regards to the relationship, how would they be able to get in touch with you?
Well, a website, www.kingdomanswers.org, and then that will have all of the contact information, but it will also give a clear picture of my background.
Okay. I'm sorry, Robin. You can go ahead.
Listening audience, I'm sure you'll be contacting Pastor Douglas Petty as well as Greg or Robin with Families United with healthy marriage issues. As we continue to talk about healthy relationship, I just want to tell you, listening audience, there are 10 big things, the Big 10, that's what I call them, on how to address certain issues or problems in your relationship. And number one, I'm talking about caring. Do you feel that you're cared for? Or how does one show that they care? In a relationship, you want to make sure that that person is caring for you and you're caring for yourself and you're caring for each other. Oh, another big one. This is number 2. Power. Oh, wow. Power. Who is in charge? Who has the power? Well, I think both partners should have the power, but you need to respect each other's ways of doing things. Number 3. Oh, control. Ugh. Hidden issues. If you're feeling to control or you feel like you need to be in control, think you might need to just think about that, because that person that you're with, they want to feel comfortable. They don't want to feel control, or you feel that you need to be in control of a situation or a relationship. Love. Am I love? How does one show love? How do you show love for your family and your children or the person that you're dating? Respect. Respect is a big one. That's number 5. Do you feel respected? Do both partners show respect to each other? You want to make sure that you're showing respect to your partner. It's very important because everyone wants to feel like they're respected. Commitment. Are we secure in our relationship? Is there a future soon? Can I count on you? Commitment is a big word. Are we secure? Do I feel like I have a future with you? Do you have a future with me? Can I count on you when things come up? You know, if I have to go to the store or to the hospital and something is an emergency, are you there for me? Trust. Oh, wow. This is number 7, trust. Can you trust each other? Can you trust that person around your family? Do you feel trusted? Also, number 8, recognition and appreciation. Do I feel appreciated? Do I contribute to our relationship? Do I feel like I'm being recognized? Or do I recognize that person or give them affirmation? Integrity. Oh, wow. I know the pastor mentioned earlier about integrity in a relationship. Is something going on that's challenging, or a sense of yourself? Or do you show that you care and you bring integrity to that relationship? Are you being trustworthy or honest? Acceptance is a number 10. Do you accept me? Do I feel accepted? Do both my partners show that they accept me for who I am? And are you willing to give back to that partner? These are the 10, I call the big 10 things that you need to be aware of in a relationship. Caring, power, control, love, respect, commitment, trust, recognition, appreciation, integrity, and acceptance. These are top 10 things that you need to be concerned about in a relationship. Don't you think so, Greg?
Absolutely. I mean, all 10 of those are very vital and important in regards to a relationship. And of course, you all just giving it your 100% and just making things work despite whether it's a good day or a bad day. You know, another thing that comes to mind is that, you know, when you hear about situations where individual couples, they'll say, well, you know, we're having trouble and we'll have things. And of course, the difference with Families United, we are educators, but, you know, we do the research. We do a lot of work in regards to, you know, why the family structure. I don't like to use the word that are in disarray. I just like to say, I like to think of things happen. And whether it's good or bad, there can always be a good outcome. So, you know, which brings me to a situation where a lot of people just don't want to talk about counseling. They think it's a bad word. And me and Robin, we've been married 20 years. We try to go to a healthy marriage retreat every year because it helps us tremendously. It helps us communicate better. I know one of my biggest pet peeves was, you know, I was always a talker by nature, but I was always having issues in regards to how to resolve conflict. So, you know, when we went to these retreats, we learned how to do these things. And when trouble arises, and I know the pastor, he spoke earlier about the horizon and seeing trouble. You can actually spot things, but the first step is to being willing to go and not be ashamed, which leads me to a question that I have for the pastor. How do we, you know, I know our churches, you know, there's a absence of godly men, and I know, you know, you gave a retreat recently, and me and my wife attended, and we was just blown away. But can you talk about why is it that we're having problems with getting godly men to come to church and participate in God's institution of marriage and bringing a family together and a community thrive? Can you just elaborate on that?
Well, you use it was like an oxymoron when you say get godly men to come to church, for that's almost like they probably would be there.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
But that's okay.
Okay.
I do understand. But it's the matter of some experiences that we have had where someone has let us down, or we got burned. We either had a very negative or lack thereof of an authority figure that was male early. Mm-hmm. So either was not there or was not one that was very good. Mm-hmm. So then therefore, my thoughts about authority figures is that they're not trustworthy or that they are unreliable. So then therefore, if you suggest, typically since there is an authority figure in the church and you're asking me to subject myself typically to a man, then I'm not really interested because my experiences are not very good, especially when there's a lot of false promises and nobody really follows through on it. And so it's best to build men rather than trying to patch them up. So the earlier the better that you start to expose them to things about what godliness looks like and what a responsible male looks like. Then now there's something for them to pursue early on. But when they don't have those things before them, or as you had said that your mother would talk about how responsible your father was, but then you have some other situation when there's an absentee dad where they're ripping him to shreds until there's some hostility that exists in that regard. Then the other thing is that men who are in the church are not necessarily as verbal in regards to talking to other males that they're exposed to. Sometimes there's a level of shame to even talk about their own personal walk, and so they're not that prone to say very much themselves.
Okay. Well, I honestly think that a community would thrive if we sat down and we chose to effectively be committed to our mates, and not only that, committed to our children. And I think that's very critical into making a relationship thrive. And because wow, I mean, we see so much, but yet just a week ago we commented on the family where the gentleman and the wife had the 13 kids and how they just kept them hostage, and these children were malnourished, and that, as an organization, that got to me and Robin, because this is why we're here, and this is why we've totally committed to putting all the resources forth to what we need to do in regards to nurturing a family and nurturing a community. It doesn't matter which community we go in. It could be an impoverished community. It could be a rich community, a thriving community. Wherever the need is, we are willing to go and participate. Before we go to break, Robin, can you give the listening audience contact information, how to reach us?
Sure. You can reach us with www.healthyrelationshipstl.com. That's our website. You can see some information of upcoming events. Of course, there's a youth retreat for teens ages 12 through 18, as well as various workshops and conferences. And so you can get an opportunity. We are a non-for-profit organization, so you're welcome to donate when you go on the website. That's www.healthyrelationshipstl.com, or you can reach out to us at 314-772-2260. Thank you for listening, family, and we'll be back.
Hello, family. We're back, and this is Greg and Robin with Families United. We have a special guest in the studio today, Dr. Douglas Petty, and he's a pastor as well. He's a licensed therapist and counselor, and I tell you, family, he's given us some good information today in regards to every aspect of the family structure. we're down to a situation where we was on break. We was talking about the hurt, how a lot of couples and a lot of relationships, they seem to just can't get over the fact that they were either hurt. So with that, there are 6 prayers that can help you through by being hurt by someone that you love. And the first one is God will fight for you. And that scripture is verified in the book of Exodus. That's Exodus 14, chapter 14, verses 13 and 14. And it talks about how Moses answered to the people, "Do not be afraid, stand firm, and you will see the deliverance of what the Lord will bring today. The Egyptians that you see today you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You just only need to stand still." The second one you ask yourself is, people who've been hurt, are you strong enough? And that's in the book of Corinthians, the 1st chapter, verses 10 through 13. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. As God is faithful, he will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out so you can endure it. Interesting. The third one is that you are not alone, and that is verified in the book of Psalms. That's Psalms chapter 34, verse 18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and save those who are crushed in spirit. So again, that's very important. I really like that. The fourth one is God is your strength, and that is in the book of Psalms, the 62nd chapter, verses 5 through 8, and it talks about, yes, my soul find rest in God. My hope comes from him. Truly, he is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will not be shaken by salvation and by my honor. Depend on God. He is my rock, my refuge. Trust in him at all times. Your people pour out your hearts for him. God is our refuge. And the fifth one is God will use this for your good. That's in Romans chapter 2, verse 28. And we know that all things God works for the good, and for those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. And the sixth one is bless those who hurt you. That's in Romans 12, verse 14. And bless those who persecute you, and bless those and do not curse them. Again, let me say that. Bless those who persecute you. Bless those and do not curse them. So hopefully, there is hope, because actually we was discussing how hurt is a basic human function that's part of life. I mean, but if we choose to say, well, I've been hurt, I've been wronged, and if you truly believe it, in some cases it does happen, there is help, there is hope, which leads me to Pastor Petty. You've heard these 6 prayers, and I know you probably get a lot of requests in regards to pray for me, I'm hurt and I can't get over this. What would you say to our listening audience in regards to, because we've gotten calls from people who say things and you've got to be able to heal. So what would you say to our listening audience in regards to the ones that specifically talk about hurt and how it's hurt them?
Well, one thing, let me go back to the prayers, and that is, in spite of how sincere we are when we want to have this conversation about God to intervene, the things that he's given us the capacity to do, he's not going to intervene about. Because if he's given us options that we can respond to, then he doesn't intervene because he's already answered. For instance, if I'm in a relationship and I'm withholding forgiveness and I'm asking him to fix it, he's not going to. I need to forgive because he's already said, forgive and you shall be forgiven. So he's already answered what you're asking him to do. Now it's a matter of acting it out. So that being the one, and forgiveness of, if there was one issue that I see more than anything else, it would be about forgiveness, what somebody did, and I'll never forgive them. I don't trust them anymore. And so then the tendency is that you have a breach in the relationship. And the fact of coming to a place again where I don't trust them is tied directly into the whole issue of unforgiveness. Because if I get past that, then I can rebuild trust, but you're not being asked to say, trust a person that they won't do this again, but you can rebuild trust. But you have to begin by forgiving. Because anytime you talk about not trusting anyone, it's because of something they've done. They violated a covenant contract you may have had with them, and then now I'm holding against them, you did this, so I'll never trust you again. But you can trust somebody again if you can get past the whole issue of unforgiveness.
Wow. So again, Dr. Petty, you've provided our listening audience with a plethora, a wealth of information and knowledge in regards to every aspect of the family in regards to whether if it's hurt or whether if it's just counseling or just whether in general. If there's anyone in our listening audience would like to reach you again, how would they be able to contact you if they wanted to talk to you in regards to counseling services and things of that sort of nature?
Well, we would suggest they go to the website, www.kingdomanswers.org, and then that way it will have all my contact information, but it would also give them an opportunity to find out more about my background.
Again, it's Greg and Robin Ingram with Healthy Relationship, Families United. Again, our information, if you would need to contact us, you can reach us at 314-772-2260, or you can email us at info@healthyrelationship. That's STL.com. We'd love to hear from you if it's a retreat, a conference, or if you just would like to have us come and present or do anything in regards to a sorority, businesses. We also have a curriculum, Winning the Workplace Challenge, where we talk about how employers can get the most out of their employees from a motivational aspect. So we try to cover it all, but our main emphasis is how do we uplift and get the family structure to higher heights. We know we try to bring in guests who can talk about, who are experts in these fields, and that they know resources and techniques and counseling and from whatever aspect that they can present professionally to help thrive and nurture the family. So again, that's Greg and Robin with Healthy Relationships, Families United at 314-772-2260. Or if you want to email us, info@healthyrelationship.stl.com. Before we actually start our ending, Robin, is there anything else that you would like to add to our listening audience?
I would just like to add that, being in a family, it's very important that you have healthy relationship and healthy families, because it's very important for your children to be in an environment that they can thrive and feel safe. It was said in St. Louis that there's over 5,000 children that are homeless. What can we do as a community to provide resources, job readiness? What can we do with job readiness, career preparation, healthy families workshops, health and wellness? It's about a community. It takes a village to raise a child. And this is our community family. And we want to be a part of a community that's thriving. And if what we can do as Families United, give us a contact at 314-772-2260, because it's very important that we save our children. Whatever we can do, if your church or your organization or even your business, you know, how to balance family and work life, we're here for you. I know Greg mentioned earlier those 6 prayers. I know one of my favorite scripture is in Psalms 46, 1 through 2. You know, God is our refuge and strength, a very present to help in trouble. Therefore I will not fear, though the earth be removed and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. You know, God is our refuge and strength. And I say to you, family, put God first in your life. When you put God first, take care of yourself second, and then you're able to take care of your family and your children. It's all about family matters. So you can reach out to us at www.healthyrelationshipstl.com, or you're welcome to text. The studio text here at 92.9 FM is 314-736-4510. And family, we will hear from you next week. This is brought to you by Families United, and we thank Pastor Douglas Petty from Fresh Start Bible Church coming in, being our guest. You know, I really enjoyed the talk with Pastor and my handsome husband, Greg. Family, it's all about you. So tune in next week. Thank you.